the Chicken Wing Wrestling Podcast. I am Schizo TD Hurt, and this is my co-host, the always wonderful, always knowledgeable Joe Wheeler. And today, since it is Halloween time, this is not going to be a wrestling podcast. This is going to be a ghost story and ghost hunting podcast. Now, if you didn't know recently, if you didn't been on Facebook, Joe Will has just been to one of the most haunted places in all of America, Savannah, Georgia. We're going to let him take over right now and let him talk about his trip. So, Joe, how did the trip go?
Oh, Schizo, man, I tell you what, Savannah, Georgia did not disappoint at all. It was a great trip. It was a great journey. My birthday was the 23rd of October, so we wanted to, have a little getaway for my birthday, and we enjoyed going down to the coast. And my wife got me into ghost hunting and the supernatural and paranormal a few years ago. I thought it'd be a great fun time since Savannah is America's most haunted city. And like I said, it did not disappoint. We went to the Sorrel Weed House, which is known as one of Savannah's most haunted locations. And it was amazing. It was really amazing. If I'll be perfectly honest. You asked me 15 years ago if I believed in ghosts. I've probably just been like, nah, I've never really thought about it. Whatever, because I didn't necessarily believe in something I couldn't see,
Yeah,
or couldn't put my hands on, or wasn't,
you never
wasn't there.
experienced it.
Exactly. And but I have experienced it multiple times now, and I certainly did this weekend in Savannah. And even if I didn't believe in ghosts before I went, I had no choice but to believe in ghosts after going to the Sorrel Weed House this weekend. It was amazing. Hey guys, Joe Wheeler here at the Sorrel Weed House, Savannah, Georgia. We're going on a ghost hunt tonight. This is going to get real interesting, I'm sure. This house was completed in 1840, and one of the owners of the house was very, very close with Robert E. Lee during the Civil War. He was known as one of Lee's lieutenants. A lot of incredible history here. A lot of blood has been spilled on this land. We have documented suicide of one of the owners' wives that lived here, and there's 2 children who haunt this residence as well as many other spirits. It's going to be an interesting night here in Savannah, and we'll bring you some highlights of it. It was amazing.
Oh, heck yeah. Tell me about the first picture you sent me on your trip inside the house. I believe it's inside the house. There's a chair, and I'll pull it up on the screen for everybody at home. But let them know a little bit of backstory about this picture of Bob. Is that what you called him? Bob or Bobby?
Bobby. Yeah, Bobby. Bobby is a 6-year-old, approximately 7-year-old little boy. He died in the house along with 2 of his siblings. I believe they died of the yellow fever. But there were 3 children that died in the house, and multiple adults. We'll talk about that later. But basically, before we went on the paranormal investigation, we did our homework, we did our due diligence, and we went and just walked up and took a tour of the house during the daytime the day before. And we did that in an effort to learn the layout and learn the history of the home. And in that process, we learned that there were children that died in the home. So my wife, being the ever thoughtful person that she is, and she enjoys ghost hunting and the paranormal, she got a couple of small tennis balls um, to place in the house, and hopefully as trigger objects to get the kid ghosts to move them, to roll them, to bounce them, whatever, to play with them. Well, I think that was very successful in this case, because the picture that you see of Bobby, he is actually facing and heading right towards one of the balls that was placed on the hearth of the fireplace. And I mean, it's amazing. It's an incredible, full body apparition of a small child standing there. And there's no doubt, there's no doubt in my mind that it happened. It wasn't seen with the naked eye; it was seen in the photographs upon later review. Some things that I did see with my naked eye in that house were orbs. As I was taking pictures in the home, the way my camera would work was it would send out like a little pre-flash, like a burst, and then it would send out a second flash. So you'd get the first flash and then the second flash. Anyway, as I'm taking a photograph, in the first flash, I clearly see an orb coming straight towards me and then turn suddenly. And I was like, whoa, okay. Of course, I was hoping that I got it, but I, of course, did not, because it was just that quick. But I did see a couple of orbs. The probably most chilling, scary experience for me personally that happened was down in the basement area. I was standing over by a door. It's basically, you had two ways in. You had one entrance in on this end of the basement and one entrance in on the other. And they were parallel, they were straight across from each other, but the basement was a huge wide area. So where I was standing by one of the doors, I could see, like a hallway type area. There was no room for anybody to have walked behind me. And there was only 4 people in this basement at this time. And I knew they were all ahead of me. They were all in the areas ahead of me, because I was basically had my back towards one of the doors. Anyway, something brushed right across my right hand side. It was like, you're passing by somebody in a crowd, or, you felt somebody just brush by you. Yeah. And yeah, that was pretty unnerving. I walked across the room and I was just kind of trying to shake it off, but it scared me. That was probably the only real thing that made me, scared, was that moment, because it was something definitely touched me. So it was weird.
Okay. Also, you sent me another picture of a graveyard, and where's this? It's obviously in Savannah. Do you know the name of the graveyard?
I recall seeing a sign that said Catholic Graveyard when we pulled into it. I could look it up and get the specifics as to the exact graveyard it was, because I remember the road. I came across that road a couple times in my travels around Savannah. But there's a road that comes along and it T-bones, and you have to turn left or you have to turn right, and that's where that graveyard is. And I do remember seeing a sign that said Catholic Cemetery as we entered, and there was some very, very old graves in there, dating back into the 1840s, 1850s. Then, as you can see, the headstones and the mausoleums that they had were very ornate, just, incredible displays. Some of them were, but yeah, we were driving. Like I said, we were driving. We were actually heading somewhere else. We saw the cemetery, and my wife was like, "Oh, let's pull in real quick." So we pulled in and just, cruised around and stopped and randomly took pictures here and there of different parts of it. Because, it's got the classic trees with the moss hanging down, and just the beautiful scenery that Savannah offers. But we were also, taking pictures of some of the tombstones and that type of thing, because some of them, like were castles and monuments, and very elaborate. Some of the pieces were. But in that picture, I don't know what it is, other than it's an apparition. It's a ghost. It appears to me to be a female, and she is between a tree and a metal post, like a gate post. And in just that,
over to the left, it looks like a blue dress to me. I'm looking at it right now. It looks like a blue dress that she's wearing. I spotted that first thing. It's freaky.
right, right. I mean, and it looks to be a period dress, an old dress that opens up, towards the bottom, and I don't know what else it could be. I mean, other than a ghost. I mean, we haven't manipulated the picture in any way. I do want to take the picture and download it onto a laptop, and brighten it and darken it and change the tints on it a little bit, and play with it, to see if we can bring out more detail, perhaps. That's something we got to do with our voice recorders. We got to plug it into the laptop and see exactly what EVPs we captured, because we did have a spirit box and a digital recorder running for a good deal of time during the investigation. So that's still some homework that we got to do as far as researching that audio. But the cemetery, man, it was, and of course, we didn't see that at the time. It wasn't until my wife was reviewing the pictures that she keyed in on that, because she was like, "Hey, look in this, and look, in this area here, and tell me what you see." She doesn't go, "Hey, do you see this right here?" She wants me to pick it out on my own. And I was like, as soon as I looked at the picture, I was like, "Oh wow, oh wow." And she was like, "Well, look over on the right hand side of the picture. Zoom it out a little bit and look over on the right hand side of the picture, and tell me what you see on the headstone." And so, of course, I looked over at the headstone, and there's an orb on one of the headstones in that same picture, which kind of, to me, is mind blowing. I mean, it's like,
oh yeah,
2 for 1.
There you go. Yeah, it's freaky. I've never seen something like that in real time. And the only way you guys are going to get to hear the EVPs and see all the extra bonus footage that we get, well, mostly Joe's got to do homework on, but if he needs my help, he can always holler at me. But the only way you're going to see that is join our Patreon. The $10 and up tier will get you bonus material, and the $30 will also get you the t-shirt. So join our Patreon, $10 up tier, and you will get to hear those EVPs and how freaky they're going to be, because after all these pictures that I've seen already, it's going to be freaky. You know that.
Yeah, and we've got, want to mention, for the people that do get the subscription, we've got some video also of the REM pod and the activity that we caught in the Sorrel Weed House as well. So, we've got some video that I'll be sending you as well to make available to those guests.
And let's also explain what the REM pod is for people that don't know what it is.
The REM pod records basically like your electromagnetism, magnetism. It records your I guess your field, your energy that a person puts off. I don't know if I'm explaining it too well. As a person, as a human being, you can walk up and get close to a REM pod and make it go off. And I'm trying to think. Basically, it's registering the energy that a person or a spirit puts off. Is that
Yeah,
correct?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So in other words, it's a device with a little light on it. If you touch it, the light will go on. If a spirit goes by it and touches it, the light will go on. So it's telling you, hey, there's somebody here. So that's what a REM pod is. But yeah, so it will pay off in the end to go and get the Patreon subscription, $10 up. If you want to do the $5 up, the only thing you get with that would be the earlier access to the video. But $10 and up, you've got to get it. So let's also talk about a story you told me after our last podcast, because that one blew my mind. The nightclub you used to work at, from a guy me and you both know. You've known a whole lot longer than me, but I met him up in North Carolina as well. KC Thunder.
All right. Yeah. A lot of folks that know KC knows that he's managed a topless bar for years and years here in Asheville, and this I I ended up going to work there. I didn't ask for the job. I didn't apply for the job. I actually just called Daryl because I was well, KC, his real name's Daryl. I just said it. Um, and a lot of folks know that already, so it ain't like it's a big secret.
Not
Anyway,
breaking kayfabe here.
anyway, I was transitioning away from doing wrestling full time, and I called him, you know, to see if it would be cool if I put his name down as a personal reference on a job application. And he was like, what are you quitting wrestling? And I'm like, well, no, I'm not quitting, but I'm just not going to do it full time. I want to, transition and pick up a normal job, to work and do wrestling as well, but it's not going to be the top priority. Anyway, he was like, well, come on over to the club, be here at 6:30 tonight. And I was like, okay, what's up? And he's like, well, I want you to bounce. I want you to be a bouncer initially, and then I want to put you in the DJ booth and have you DJ. He said, I want to get rid of the DJ I got. But anyway, so that's another story. So I go to work at this club, and, it's a natural thing for me. I'm playing music, talking on a microphone, which is done what I've done in wrestling for years. I'm just introducing people. So it was a natural transition. Anyway, the place was haunted as hell. There ain't no two ways about it. The guy who used to own the place was involved in an affair where he was cheating on his wife with one of the girls at the club. It was a topless club, back when this guy owned it. So anyway, the guy's running around on his wife. He goes up to the woman. There was a big situation. I think he got caught by his wife or whatever. Not sure of all the details, but I do know that he went to the home of the woman that he was having the affair with, and he shot her in the chest. He probably figured he killed her, but because he did wound her very badly, but she actually survived, I believe. But he committed suicide. Well, his name was Roy. So Roy committed suicide. Well, Roy is the predominant ghost that haunts that club. And I didn't never, this, as I said earlier, I never really thought about ghosts or believed in ghosts necessarily. I never had an experience. Well, that was my first experience, was working at that club. And one of the duties as, being a bouncer, security guard, is at the end of the night, I would go through and do a sweep of the dressing room area and make sure that all the hair dryers and hot iron curlers and, different things the ladies use, make sure everything was unplugged so it wouldn't start a fire. Make sure everything was unplugged and turn the lights off. And then I had to go lock the doors on each side of the building. Anyway, I go through, I do my sweep of the dressing room, everything's straight. And in the process of unplugging the curling irons and the hair dryers, I would slide the chairs up under the counter where the girls would sit and put their makeup on. Just kind of tidy up real quick, cut the lights off, Then I had a door to my immediate right that I would lock, secure that door. And then I had to walk across the club to the other exit door on the other side of the building. It's not very far at all. Anyway, I get about halfway to that door and I hear all hell break loose in the dressing room. And it's just chairs just sliding everywhere. I mean, just jump, 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 jump. But I'm not sure. I just hear all this commotion, all this noise. Well, I go ahead and because I'm already halfway there, I go ahead and I go over and I lock the other door. Come back around. Now I know there's only one other person in the building, and I knew this. I already knew this. So I go back to the dressing room, and I've already pulled my flashlight out. I was carrying a big mag flashlight, because you can use them as a weapon and whop somebody, which I've done.
There you go.
And you hear something like that, and you're like, well, "What the hell? Is somebody hiding in here that I didn't see? Did somebody sneak in the back door? At some point, I don't know what I'm going to confront. So I got my flashlight. I'm ready. So I throw the flashlight on, and I walk around the corner to enter the dressing room, and I flip on the light, and I look, and chairs are just slid everywhere. They're just slid all over the room. And I'm like, well, what the hell? What the fuck is going on here? So I looked around, I shined the flashlight around, I didn't see anybody. I cut the light off. I made a beeline for the office. And I was like, KC, I don't know what's going on, man. Da-da-da-da-da. And I tell him the whole story, and he just laughs and snickers. He says, you got both doors locked, right? I said, yeah. He said, you set the alarm? I said, oh, shit, no. He said, well, you need to go set the alarm. Where you set the alarm for that, we had 2 alarms. One of the 2 alarms was right outside the dressing room door, and that was for the 2 back doors. So he's like, well, you got to go set that alarm. And I'm just like, I don't want to go back there again, man. But I ended up going back there, and I set the alarm. But it was, it was nerve-wracking. It was nerve-wracking. That was probably the first real, old shit moment with Roy. But I tell you, another real old shit moment with Roy was, again, it was me and Daryl, KC. We're sitting at the front counter, at the front desk. We're the only, we were there, and then we had one dancer who was in the dressing room. This was early in the night. We were just opening. So she was the very first dancer to arrive. This lady was what we call our house mom. She'd been a dancer for several years. She was a little bit older lady. Very tough woman. I can't emphasize that enough. She wasn't scared of shit. She's a country girl at heart, from Western North Carolina, and but she's a tough lady. And I don't want to give away too many details, but she never knows, she might watch this. But in all respect for her privacy, she was a tough lady. Anyway, she was in the back. She was getting ready. Me and KC are sitting at the front door. We're the only 3 people in the building. Daryl and I, or KC and I, we're just hanging out. We're watching the TV in the front lobby, just killing time. The evening is just getting started. Well, I hear an absolute blood-curdling scream. I mean, just, and it was my name. And it was the lady inside, the dancer that was inside, screams my name just at the top of her lungs. Scared the hell out of me. I go through the double doors into the club, and she is on her knees right next to the entrance to the VIP room. And my initial thought was, she's a dancer, she's a stripper, so she's wearing high heels. And anybody who knows anything about strippers and high heels, or even just ladies in high heels sometimes, they can fall. They can, it doesn't take a whole lot if you're on a 4-inch heel, for someone to go down. I mean, and we even had a joke about it. We called it strip her down, if one of the girls fell. Well, that was my initial thought. I thought, oh God, she's fallen and she's hurt herself bad enough that she screamed the way she did. But at the same time, it was still, oh shit, what the hell's going on? Anyway, I run up to her. I drop down on my knees and I'm like, what happened? What, are you okay? Are you okay? Can I, are you all right? And she's just sobbing, absolute, just complete meltdown. So I just sat there and comforted her and held her and talked to her and just, it's okay. Everything's okay. Just calm down. We'll get everything taken care of. I'm just trying to reassure her. I don't know what the hell's happened. I'm still going, what the hell's going on? Well, after a few minutes, it took her to compose herself. She told me that she came out of the dressing room and she was heading for the front door to hang out with me and KC and shoot the shit. Well, as she comes out of the dressing room, she sees what she thought was a customer standing over by the pool table. So being a good dancer, she's heading over to that customer to ask if they want to dance. As she got 5 feet, 6 feet away from him, he disappeared in front of her eyes. He dissolved. She was walking up to a full body apparition and he disappeared right in front of her. And that's why this tough country girl was screaming and crying like a child. Scared the shit out of her. Understandable.
It scared the shit out of me, too.
Yes, sir.
Oh, dang, man. Oh, dang. But yeah,
Yeah.
So here's a couple of mine. I grew up in Knoxville, Tennessee, in a project that's built on an Indian burial ground. Already bad mojo.
Oh, yeah.
My mom, when I was I'd say about about 6 years old, I was in kindergarten. She was talking to the neighbor, and the neighbor said, "Oh yeah, we've got a ghost in our house." Well, apparently that ghost liked to move around because these two little girls came and played me up in my room, and they had a baton. The way the house is set up, as soon as you open the door, apartment, as soon as you open the door, the steps go up. Then it kind of curves. There's like a linen closet right to the side. The bathroom, my room, and my mom and dad's rooms that way. Well, we all go down the stairs, and we remember that the girls left their baton in the middle of my room. It's summer. There's no wind. My windows are shut anyways. We go downstairs, and strangely enough, that baton somehow comes from middle of my room. It'd have to go this way because my door's kind of catty-cornered. This way, and then started falling down the steps, like one step at a time. I did not want to go upstairs to go pee for the longest time. But that was my first ghost experience. Also, my dad had a Zippo lighter. One day he couldn't find it at all. He looked everywhere, looked even in my room, lifted my bed. He lifted his bed up 4 or 5 times. About the 6th time he lifted up, it was sitting right in the middle of the box spring that he's already lifted up and looked. After blaming me, which kind of made me mad because this ghost is trying to get me in trouble. But that's the first time I had ghost experiences when I was a kid, but I had even worse experiences with another thing. Another, I guess you would call apparition, but it's not a human. Yeah, this is where it gets creepy. This is why I got to paint my face up anyways, and you get the whole schizo gimmick. But when my my dad and my mom, we went to church religiously. My dad was a preacher. When I was, I'd say about 7 at this time, me, my mom and dad, uh, my aunt, uncle, and all of my cousins. Well, mostly all of them. 2 of them were in California, the older ones, but 4 of my cousins, we're all there. We're at the church and everything. This one dude comes in with this girl that goes to church all the time. He gets up and starts yelling at our preacher that he hates him. And the preacher's saying, "Oh, well, I love you." And it keeps on going. And this dude, you can just tell on his face, it's not looking right anymore. He looks like he has no emotion. His face is drained and everything. So they basically did an exorcism, not like a one you would see like in The Exorcist or anything like that, but they prayed over him, did an exorcism. That night, we were kids. We we were all afraid of everything. So like I wouldn't go in trick or treating in some houses if I see Freddy Krueger across the street or something because I wasn't having it. But my cousin has never seen a picture of what the Grim Reaper's supposed to look like. He said he saw the Grim Reaper that night as well, outside, hanging over this older gentleman that went to church for years there. A couple nights later, that guy passed away. And he described to a T to where my mom, she was a wonderful artist. She would always draw pictures of like Mickey Mouse, Scooby Doo, whatever for me when I was a kid. She drew a picture, and by like him telling her, she got a good job as a sketch artist. But so that was the freakiest thing at first, but then it started. I can go. I have too many stories. I can go on that, but then it started to come home basically with me, cause I one night was laying in my bed, and I won't be afraid to say this. I still cannot sleep without a TV on. My wife could vouch for that. She hates it, but I am terrified of just being in the dark room. And I'm saying this all painted up, and I know it's freaky, but because one night I didn't have a TV back then in my room. My bed was against the wall, and I lay facing towards the wall. My mom and dad are crazy asleep. You can hear them snoring in the next room. I hear in the deepest, darkest voice someone tell me to turn over. Not only am I frozen, I was thinking in my head, oh hell no, I'm not turning over. I do not know what the hell I'm going to see. And that was just a glimpse of it coming to me, because later, I'd say about maybe a month or so afterwards, in the same place, because not the same exact housing. This is a place called Montgomery Village. Look it up. Don't go there though. But Montgomery, don't go there. Definitely, you might get shot. You never know what's going to happen there. But there's different places. Like I lived on Cook. There was a place called Daylily and a couple other places of different housing. My other cousin on my stepdad's side, he was pushed into a wall from something he didn't see. That was freaky enough. then one day, this is the scariest thing that ever happened to me, and it freaks me out to this day. He wouldn't usually come to our house, knock on the door, mom and dad let him in, and then I would probably run down and go talk to him because I loved my cousins. You know, they were older and cooler and more fun to hang around with and everything. But he that scared me. I don't know what that was, but that scared something vibrated or something. But he came straight in the door, no knocking or nothing. Walked straight up the stairs. Went to my bedroom. Took a bunch of my blankets, even my baby blanket that my mom made me when I was a kid. Tied them around my wrist and tied me to my post, my bedpost. Then walks right back out, and I'm untying myself, and he's already gone. And my mom screams, "What was that? Who was that?" I said, "That was Anthony. He just walked up here." I didn't tell her about the time thing because it freaked me out. He just walked right up here, and then he walked out. Later that night, we get a call, and we have to go there because my 600-pound uncle that served in Vietnam, my aunt who used to be a biker, and she was about 500, 600 pounds. She's pretty big too. Another big guy that went to church with us, and my preacher was all trying to exercise them, and he was pushing them off. And he was a skinny kid. There's no way he could have done anything like that by himself. But it was some of the freakiest stuff I've ever experienced.
And the kid that apparently was possessed, this was a cousin of yours?
Yeah, my cousin. He was possessed. He got pushed into the wall by something, and we think it was a demon that pushed him into a wall, and it took over him. Because he was ripping Bibles and everything. They would have a Bible, he'd try to rip it out and push them, and I mean 600-pound people, 500, 600-pound people, and he was about maybe $150, if that. He was kind of tall, skinny at that time. He's fat now. So Anthony, if you ever see this, you're fat now, but it's okay. So am I. But
it happens. It happens.
It happens. Yeah, especially with age. But
wow, that must have been scary as hell, though, for your cousin to come in and proceed to tie you like that.
Yeah.
Right out of nowhere. You know.
Yeah, right out of nowhere.
And so he obviously was possessed for some period of time then, as far as, a day or two or maybe even more.
The night before is when the push happened.
Okay.
And then it just slowly, I don't know if it slowly took him over or what, because it was probably happened to him on a Friday, because I know I was out of school that day, unless it was summer. I think it was summer. It might have been summer, it might not have. It's been a long time. But I remember being in my bed playing. I was actually playing with my wrestling action figures, my Honky Tonk Man and my Rowdy Ronnie Piper. But he just walked straight up, and no one ever just walked right into our house without knocking. And especially Anthony. He never did that. He would knock, and then, because, I mean, if someone doesn't knock, I don't know why we didn't lock the doors in the first place. I mean, I thought we were going to get shot. But it was the craziest thing. It's something I've never fully recovered from either. Like you don't recover from seeing stuff like that as a kid. I was terrified as a kid.
Right. I mean, well, that's very terrifying. I mean, in the story where you were talking about the guy that came into your church and was, was possessed and was, attacking the preacher. I mean, granted it was verbally, but still to see somebody in that twisted state like that, and especially as a child, I mean, that had to be extremely traumatic.
Oh yeah.
I mean,
Oh yeah.
you talk about post-traumatic stress disorder. I mean, I couldn't imagine seeing someone that's possessed and going after a preacher like that, or coming in and tying you like your cousin did. I mean,
He didn't look right when he did it too. He had the most evil smirk on his face. Like his mouth was way too wide. Like how I kind of got mine painted and everything, it was way too wide. And his eyes is just, you can tell when someone in their eyes they kind of seem empty. That's what it seemed like to me. Like his eyes was empty. It
right.
was it was terrifying. So yeah, ghost and demons, for some reason, must love Montgomery Village in Knoxville, Tennessee. But it was some pretty creepy stuff. That's
Well,
why I asked you beforehand if you had any story when you were a kid, because I'm like, I've got a few. That's just a handful.
right. Well, I do have a kind of a cool story I can share from when I was a kid. It wasn't anywhere near, as scary and traumatic as some of the things that you've talked about, but it is kind of a fun ghost story. Where I grew up in down near, or I grew up on Riceville Beach, which is near Wilmington, North Carolina, and years and years ago, I guess back in like the 20s or 30s. Well, I guess it's somewhere with say between the 30s and 40s. There used to be only one road that you could take to get to Riceville Beach from the Wilmington area, and it was called Airlie Road, and it's very famous for Airlie Gardens, which is a very historic garden that big tourist attraction, is full of azaleas and all kinds of. It's just a beautiful area with a lake and stuff. But so you got Airlie Gardens, and but going down, when you go down Airlie Road, you go. It's a pretty straight road for the most part, but there is a sharp curve to the left when you reach the Intercoastal Waterway. So the road has to turn and run parallel to the water. Well, in that curve, at some point years and years ago, back in the day, a young woman got hit by a car on that curve. And as the story goes, the she got hit. The people that hit her, had stopped and they were trying to figure out what to do or whatever. And a person came out of the woods basically and said, "Oh, it's okay. We'll take care of it. We'll take care of it. You can go on." And as the story goes, the woman was dead. The car crash killed her. This person took her back into the woods and buried her on the corner, on the curb. And what you do is you come down Airlie Road like you're going to the beach. Before you get to the curb, you pull over off on the side of the road, cut your car off, and the ghost will appear and come towards your car. Now, some people would say that their car wouldn't start, they'd have mechanical problems or whatever with the vehicle, because of the ghost or whatever. But anyway, as a kid, my sister, I have a sister who's 10 years older than me, and her and some of her friends wanted to go and, test this when they were 16 or 17. So I guess I was, 6 or 7 years old, and I'm in the back of the station wagon. My sister's driving the family station wagon, got a couple of her friends, just got her license. Anyway, we go out there, pull over on the side of the road, and, we sit there and wait. Well, they swore up and down that they saw the ghost. They all started freaking out and screaming and everything. But like I said, we were in like a, late 1978 station wagon that had the big old back end on it. And I'm back there and I'm just kind of peeking over the back seat. But I can't say that I saw anything, but they carried on and said they did. And other people claimed that they saw the woman in white who would come up and she'd come up to your car. And if you didn't start your car and leave, or if you couldn't start your car because of her, she'd come up and try to open your door. I never heard any stories of her hurting anybody, but she always would just try to get into the car. So, and I've heard a lot of stories like that about, ghosts of people who have been hit on the roads or whatever, and they'll try to get into people's cars. Or even I've heard stories where people will see, it's usually a woman in a white dress on a road, and they'll stop and pick her up, and she'll tell them, I need to go to 123 Fake Street or whatever. They'll drive to that address and they'll turn around and the person's gone. They're not in the car anymore. And then they'll walk up to the address and knock on the door and tell the person there what happened. And then the person there will be like, well, yeah, that was my daughter, Susie or whatever, who died in a crash 15 years ago or whatever. So I'm sure you probably have heard stories
yes,
like
urban legends. But the thing about urban legends is you think about it. Some of it's got to be true because, I mean, like, you have to have that little seed planted to start that. There's going to be a little bit of truth to every urban legend. It's like the Hook Man, where two people are on make-out point or something like that, and then the next thing you know, they hear something on the radio about some lunatic that's loose and it's got a hook for a hand, and they hear a scratch on their car, and there's a hook on their car and stuff. But you ever heard the one about the Bunny Man?
I don't think so. The Bunny Man?
The Bunny Man. I forget exactly where it was. There was these two guys that got loose from a insane asylum. And I'm wanting to say this is back in maybe the 50s or 60s. And the one guy killed the other guy. And then he started killing, the reason why they called him Bunny Man, he started killing rabbits and leaving them in like a weird, like, trail of dead rabbits everywhere.
Oh, wow.
He went to this bridge, and these teenagers were coming up there. The next morning, they find 3 of the teenagers hung from that bridge. And it was written something about the Bunny Man was here or something like that. I've heard it on a show back in the 90s called Scariest Places on Earth, but I've heard it a few times after that. So it just makes you wonder, like, how much truth is to this. Because, I mean, it's not hard for some crazy guy to escape from an insane asylum and start killing bunnies and kill 3 teenagers. That's not hard to believe.
No, not at all. And you mentioned the TV show Most Terrifying Places on Earth, and if you don't mind, I'm going to segue back a little bit to the Sorrel Weed House in Savannah, because it was featured on the Most Terrifying Places on Earth, as well as Ghost Adventures and Ghost Hunters and stuff. And you were talking about it's not hard to believe that a psychotic person would kill some teenagers. Well, part of the interesting story about the Sorrel Weed House is there's people that believe that Francis Sorrel may have killed his wife. And he also may have killed his lead or head housekeeper, who was a slave named Molly. Now, why would Mr. Sorrel kill his wife? Well, Mr. Sorrel used to like to rape Molly. He would go into her because she was the head housekeeper and probably his, side piece, if you will. She had her own room, her own little section of a part of one of the houses on the property. It was basically the slave quarters. They call it the carriage house. But anyway, Molly's room only had one entrance and one exit. There was a staircase that went up on the side of the house, and it only entered to her room and only exited. Well, Mr. Sorrell was up in Molly's room, trying to rape her, trying to force himself upon her. And his wife was trying to find Molly and trying to find him because they were supposed to be getting ready for a party, because these people threw parties all the time. Well, anyway, Miss Sorrell proceeds up the staircase to go to Molly's room in an attempt to find Molly, and she hears someone on the other side of the door. She hears noise on the other side of the door. There was no answer. She wasn't answering the door, so she went ahead and opened the door. And when she did, she saw her husband raping Molly, the housekeeper. Well, it was apparently a big heated exchange, and the next thing you know, Miss Sorrell supposedly jumped from the third floor balcony of the house, killing herself. She died. She didn't die necessarily immediately. She died a few hours later at the home. Because back in the 1850s, 1860s, you didn't have an ambulance to come along and pick you up and take you to the local intensive care unit.
No good health care then.
Yeah. So you stayed at your residence and hopefully were able to get a doctor to come to you. Anyway, Miss Sorrell died from her injuries from the suicide, is what it was officially titled, which it's a possibility. Because the woman had 8 children in 11 years. 8 children in 11 years. She was a baby factory for Mr. Sorrell. Well, anyway, so Mrs. Sorrell supposedly commits suicide, and then about 3 to 4 weeks later, somewhere in that time frame, Molly, the head housekeeper, is found hanging from the rafters in her room. Another suicide. So that's the kind of energy that this house has. Plus, you had the 3 children that died in the house, one of which was Bobby, the picture that we talked about. But here's where it even gets even more crazy. The Mr. Sorrell, because he couldn't control his wife, and his wife committed suicide, he was shunned. He went from being one of the most, heralded top people in society. He was a very rich man. He made his money off of shipping through the ports there in Savannah. So he was a shipping, millionaire. But because he couldn't control his wife and his wife committed suicide, he lost his social status. Well, in losing his social status, he also lost a lot of business. So he ended up selling the house and ended up moving into the house next door. Well, then the person who gets the house, Dr. Weed, he was a surgeon. He was a doctor. And during the Civil War time, Savannah was a hotbed during the Civil War. Robert E. Lee came and actually was a good friend of Mr. Sorrell's and visited the home before Mr. Sorrell lost the house. Robert E. Lee came and visited the house on multiple occasions. And then, but then when the house was sold and the doctor acquired the house, the doctor was treating injuries, from the Civil War. And back in the 1860s, you didn't really have much medicine again. So if you got shot in the leg, they'd cut your leg off. That was the way it worked. And this doctor was one of the best in the business or one of the best in the area or whatever, but he was considered one of the best doctors. And so he was really great at cutting arms and legs off of people. But even being one of the best, his mortality rate was 51%. He lost a little more than half his patients. And this was over a 6-year period that this man was doing these amputations in the basement of the house. So over 6 years, you had thousands and thousands of people dying in that house just at his hands. They even told us that they have no idea how many people died in that house because of that doctor. So it just, you talk about setting up some bad juju. And,
it's a hotbed.
Yeah, and it goes just back exactly to what you were talking about, the place in Knoxville where they had built the homes on top of the Indian burial
ground. Yeah.
Yeah.
When you have so much death in one place, there's no way to get around of not having spirits and other entities in that place. It's crazy.
It really is.
Like look at Gettysburg. Gettysburg's one of the most haunted places, and there were so many people died there in the Civil War.
True.
And there's a lot of places in the Civil War that all the battles that's had so much ghostly activity.
Yep.
Even I moved to a place called Newmarket. It's about 45 minutes away from Knoxville. It's between Knoxville and Morristown. There was also a picture that you can see in the historic books in Newmarket and libraries and everything all over. There was a bad train wreck. 2 trains hit each other head on. And in that picture, you'll see the survivors, and then onto the right, and this is terribly hard to fake, especially since the picture was taken back in that time, black and white. I mean, when you took pictures there, that's when they had that flame stick thing, and yeah, it's not easy as today. But there was a boy that was see-through in that picture. I'm going to have to look it up and actually share it on here, but there is a see-through child in that picture. And there was also a battle somewhere in Newmarket, a little battle in the Civil War. Newmarket's also a little bit of a hotbed for activity. But, yeah, Indian burial grounds and doctors chopping off limbs and men killing their wives and their maids. You're bound to have something go on there.
Yeah, you're creating a lot of negative energy, and that's how that's how ghosts, from what I can understand, that's how they're created, with a suicide or a sudden death. It's a life that hasn't finished properly. It's not like somebody necessarily dying of old age. I mean, I'm sure there's ghosts out there that died of old age, but it seems to me the trend is a suicide, someone being murdered, or like a heart attack. Someone died suddenly, and then I guess it's hard for the spirit to realize it's time to cross over. Yeah.
They have unfinished business. Exactly. I've heard a lot like that before, unfinished business. But yeah, definitely getting murdered will definitely send you in a rage.
Absolutely. I mean, and it's it's wild. I mean, when you think about it. I mean, one of the first stories my wife that I recall her telling me, one of her first recollections as a young person was she was at a friend's house um, here in North Carolina, down in the southeastern part of North Carolina, again down towards the Wilmington area. Um, this area is a little west of Wilmington on I-40, but it's called Moores Creek Battlefield, and there was wars fought on this battlefield in this area during the Revolutionary War, and during the Civil War as well. There was wars down in this area. But when she was young, I think like 10 or 12 years old, if even that, she was visiting her friend, and their home, their backyard, basically bordered the Moores Creek National Battlefield. And she's just a young kid. She doesn't know anything about it necessarily. She's just sitting there in the kitchen of these people's home, and she sees these soldiers marching through the backyard. And she goes and alerts, the adults, and she's like, "Hey, y'all need to come here. Y'all, what is going on here? What's going on?" You know, and apparently it was a rather common occurrence to the adults. They were familiar with this, but they would march, they would march right down across this line of trees, across the back of these people's property, and they just explained to her that they're ghosts of the soldiers that fought there, however long ago. But that was the story. I remember the first time she told me that, and I was just like, whoa, and there was no doubt it was true. I mean, she had no reason to lie to me about it. And again, there was a lot of blood spilled on that soil, and that's another common trend. These areas just seem to be saturated with blood and negative energy and death. But it's crazy. It's I never believed in them until I saw them, until I saw a ghost myself or interacted with one. And that's what put me over the top. As I'm sure it did you.
Oh, yeah. So the moral of the story, ladies and gentlemen, is if you are skeptic, if you do not believe, you need to go to Savannah, Georgia. Go to the how do you say it?
Sorrel Weed House.
Yes, because I can't say that. Go there. If you don't believe in recording or using EVPs or any of those gadgets, just figure out for yourself. Just go explore and see how well it turns out for you. I'll leave you with my last one in Newport, Tennessee. There is a place called the American Legion. It sits almost, I would say, not exactly the center of Newport, but it sits in the center of these two roads. And that's another thing. Crossroads also carry a lot of activity. There was a plane crash in the 50s over Cosby and Parrotsville, and it was terrible. Like, I think there was no survivors from what I was told about it from these guys that's lived there their whole life, and they knew the whole story. Well, they brought pieces of the people to the American Legion building. Now, I shot a little independent film there with Al Snow and a few wrestlers from Knoxville and the surrounding area. And because we were kind of stagehands as well, me and Josh, we had to turn off the lights and lock up. There was a kind of catwalk type deal where you can go one way and then another person goes another way. But it comes around. I'm locking up on the far side, he's locking up on this side. And as I'm walking to shut the lights off, kind of in the catty corner, and I'm thinking he must be on this side shutting the lights off because where the lights were. I'm hearing somebody come behind me. First, I'm thinking it's him, but I heard the stories and everything. I looked back. It was dark, but I didn't see him or anything. So I just start running, and then I run and I meet with him at the door right there. So it was not him. So I got chased out that building by something.
Oh, oh, wow. That must have been scary as hell.
Yeah, it was. He went running too, so it makes me think either he heard the same thing or somebody else was chasing him. Because we were the only two. Everybody else left. Al left, and all the other wrestlers left. It was just me and him locking up the store, or not the store, the American Legion building, and there was the director and a couple people already outside, but there's nobody else because we shut that door. There's nobody else in there. Nobody called us, "Hey, get me out! I was playing a joke on you." There's nobody else in there.
Mm, mm. That had to. Oh, that's just that nerve and somebody
Chilled.
pursuing you like that. Oh, I had one happen at the club. I'll tell you this one real quick, and we can take it home if we need to. But this was a pretty good one. I'm sitting in the DJ booth, and there's one way in, one way out. It's just a short little hallway, and it's just a squared box basically. And I've got a computer here, and I've got a window here, and a window here, and I'm monitoring what's happening on the stage through this window. Through this window, I can see the pool table area and part of the club. Got the computer here, so most of the time I'm positioned like this because I'm watching the window, the person on stage, and watching what I'm doing on the computer. Well, people would come walking up, from my left side, and that'd be common. Like, the girls would come up and they'd want to request a song or, figure out what we're doing for their set. So anyway, I'm facing this way and I feel somebody walk up behind me. And I like, okay, it's one of the girls, but I'm right in the middle of doing an introduction. So I didn't acknowledge him. So I'm, like, all right, we're rolling into song number 2. We got Destiny on the main stage, song number 2. Get up there, guys. You got to tip the girls. They're all working on tips and tips alone. You got Destiny. Well, as soon as I finished what I was saying, I felt somebody blow in my ear. Just, and it happened twice. And again, I was like, all right, who's that? Nobody's there. No one. And there wasn't any way that anybody could have done that and gotten away from me in that moment, in that split second from the time they blew in my ear the second time to the time I finally turned to acknowledge them. There's no way. That one scared the what out of me. It really did. It really did. Because thank God the girl that I'd put on stage, Destiny, she liked to dance to Metallica. And I had just put on Wherever I May Roam, which, if you know that song, it's about a 7-minute song if you let it play out. Well, in general, in a strip club, you only play about half the song. But at this particular night, we weren't that busy. She was on stage. I had just started that song, and I just got the shit scared out of me. I went to the front door. I went right to KC, and I'm shaking. I mean, my hands are shaking. I'm so unnerved. I'm like, Daryl, what is going on around here, bro? Because this just happened. And then it totally, I'm not a scared person. I'll look fear in the face most of the damn time. But this one just totally unnerved me. He just laughed. He's like, Roy got you. Roy got you good, didn't he? Yes, sir. He got you good. And I'm like, you son of a bitch. This ain't funny. But it was that was really that was very unnerving. I just knew one of the girls was standing there. I did, that was, that's why I wasn't really paying that much attention, because I was trying to do my job. I knew one of the girls had come up, and they were just fucking with me, just blowing in my ear, like, hey, pay attention to me. You know, no one was there. That was, yeah. That was one of those moments that I went from questioning to completely, okay, there's got to be something else out there. You know, we're not alone. We're not
No,
alone.
no, it's crazy. I'm sure that there's some spirits that may be in like a loop, like you were talking about the soldiers that would walk across, and that the adults seen that they might be in a loop to do that same thing every time you see them. But then there's also some spirits that know what they're doing, and this Roy fellow seems like he knew what he was doing when he was messing with you.
Yeah, Roy would definitely be an intelligent haunting. He's not a residual haunting like the soldiers marching by. They're like on a loop. They just keep doing the same thing day in and day out. Where you have intelligent hauntings who will interact with you and respond to you. And we again, going back to the Sorrel Weed House. I don't think I told the story of Molly. I told you a little bit about Molly. She was the housekeeper who was raped and then later found hung by the neck in her room. And of course, she was not only the housekeeper, but she was a slave. She was a black female slave. Um, and of course, in the 1850s, 1860s, if someone was going to be killed, they usually hung them. They strung them up by the neck. A lot of, there were a lot of black folks that were hung. So it wasn't uncommon, although it was very physically difficult for her to have done this, given the height of the rafters in the room, and she didn't have any furniture or a 12-foot ladder to climb up in order to commit suicide. But this is a great point about intelligent hauntings, and we had a REM pod. I think we talked about the REM pods. We may have touched on this with Molly. I did mention it briefly, but basically with the REM pod, it was responding. We were talking to Molly, and people can see this on the video if they order the bonus footage. With the video, Molly was responding to us on the REM pod. I mean, we were talking to her, and she was responding almost, instantaneously in real time. And I'll send you those videos. They'll need to. You'll want to edit them down, I'm sure, because it's like a 2-minute video, and in those 2-minute time, we probably got like 2 flashes. But she was responding to us. Another group that went into Molly's room after we did were getting a lot of activity on the REM pod, but unfortunately, they didn't think, they were so engrossed by the responses and the REM pod being active that none of them thought to grab their cell phone
and record it.
Hit record video. Yeah. Because they were even asking the people who ran the house if the video camera would have picked up the REM pod, because they had video cameras, throughout the home. And they were hoping that perhaps the surveillance system had caught the activity of the REM pod, but unfortunately that particular camera was not working that night, so they weren't able to get it. But I mean, you talk about a duh moment. You're getting that much activity on a REM pod, and nobody thought to grab a phone and start recording it. I mean, wow. I don't want to kick myself in the ass if I didn't think of recording it.
I know, right?
But It's just amazing. I mean, I spent a good deal of time just sitting there filming that REM pod and talking to Molly and trying to get her to respond. And I did get her to respond a couple times. And there was another male that was in our group. There was only four of us in our group, but the other guy, he was being very loud and boisterous, and he was like, "Molly, are you here? Molly, what are you doing?" That way. Which she did respond to him, but I chose the kinder, gentler tactic of trying to speak with her and sympathize with her and tell her that we're not here to hurt her, and we understand that she has a very sad story to tell, and we want to hear her story. Please talk to us. Which that seemed to work somewhat as well.
You think she responded to him more because of that's probably like how her master yelled at her?
Exactly. And he was coming across in that manner with what he was saying. You hit it on. But it's a really, really interesting house with an interesting story. And if there's anybody out there watching this, and if you want to experience something firsthand, if you're on the fence and you don't know if you believe in ghosts, or if you believe in ghosts and you definitely want to experience something, I cannot recommend the Sorrel Weed House, downtown Savannah, Georgia, any higher. And I'll tell you, part of the reason I recommend them, not only because of the incredible experience and the interaction and the true spirits that are there, but another reason that I recommend it is because the money, the proceeds that come from the tours and come from the paranormal investigations, they go to a historic society that has been set up to preserve the home. The home was finished in 1840, and it needs work. So they're constantly working and fixing and saving this beautiful historic home from the proceeds that they generate from the paranormal investigations and the ghost tours. So it goes for a great cause, as well as satisfying your curiosity and seeing what you'll do when you come face to face or interact with a ghost. So it's a great experience, and it goes for a good cause.
It's a must go to, guys. Go there, enjoy yourself. Don't get haunted and bring it home with you, but go there and enjoy it. And you just said that they have to spend all the time like fixing on it and everything. That also kind of stirs up more activity. Like, spirits hate it when you're like moving stuff or building on stuff. They attach to it. So go to the Sorrel Reed House. See, I can't even say it, but go check them out online.
Yes.
You can Google it. You guys need to take a trip to Savannah. I know I need to. I want to go. So go there. And because COVID's crazy right now and it's got you down, you can't get out, and you want to see some of this for yourself, go to our Patreon. I'll put the link in the description and get the $10 and up tiers, and you'll get the bonus content. You'll get the early access. You'll get the Ask Us Anything, because, we're here. We're here. You can ask us any kind of question you want. Why am I painted up like this? Well, this is my wrestling character. This is Schizo. This is half of my crazy, insane mind. There's your answer right there. But you know what? If you need to know more, you want a T-shirt, an awesome T-shirt, go into Patreon. The link in the description. Get the $30 $30 tier. Go to Joe Wheeler on Facebook. You see all those awesome wrestling memorabilia right behind him. I mean, I see freaking Andre the Giant from the Princess and the Bride movie, one of my favorite movies, where he is so hilarious. And you see Harley Race, which Harley Race has a school just not maybe about 2 hours away from where I live right now. You've got to. I see Bam Bam Bigelow down there. I see. Is that the Iron Sheik? I think so. There's Glare.
You got George Animal, and
George
then
Animal Steel.
and then Ric Flair, Tony Atlas over here, and then Dusty and his boys next to Andre, and then Harley next to Andre also. Andre's the centerpiece.
Yeah, there you go. And
But
you want to buy
yeah,
stuff like this from him? Go to his Facebook, Joe Wheeler on Facebook. He's does auctions. He'll tell you a price up front for 'em. Go buy this awesome memorabilia, man.
yeah, and I do want to mention, I do the live sales and auctions on Facebook. Gonna probably do one, in the next week or so. But yeah, please hit me up on Facebook and send me a friend request, and that way when I do an auction, you can check it out, you can bid, and you can pick up some really, really cool, unique wrestling memorabilia pieces. I've always got new inventory and new stuff coming in, and you get to hang out with my cats too. My kitties are jumping all around, but yeah, there's a lot of fun stuff, and we have a great time with the auctions and sales, and you get to pick up some unique pieces and some little bit of wrestling history. We have fun and play some trivia as well, so it's a good time, and always always got new stuff coming in, and that's part of the fun thing about the auctions as well is I got some exciting new pieces on the way, so stuff that you won't necessarily find everywhere. Let's put it that way.
Thank you for joining. Oh, go ahead, Joe. Go ahead.
I was going to say this has been fun. It's been certainly a little different as far as not focusing on wrestling and a little special Halloween fun and telling some ghost stories. This is really cool. I love the face paint, by the way.
Yeah.
That really
This is the first time I did this. I usually do like green or something like that. I've done blue and black and white and black, but it's the first time I did red. I'm gonna stick with my red gear from now on. But yeah, it's pretty awesome. But happy Halloween to you guys out there on YouTube. Join us next time. Who knows who will pop up on the podcast? No one knows. How are you gonna know? You're gonna have to join us. You're gonna have to subscribe to the Chicken Wing podcast on TDTV. You're gonna have to hit that little notification bell in the corner there, so anytime we post anything, you have it right there. You're gonna have to go to Joe's website. Gonna have to find me on Twitter, TD Hurt. Till then, stay alive. Or else.
We'll see you next time.
See you next time, guys.